FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
Ambassador John Bolton, as well as Mary Chastain, who covers the Fast and Furious coverage for the Breitbart sites, Big Government and Big Journalism as well. And I know Ambassador Bolton, first of all, thank you so much for joining me.
Glad to do it.
It's a pleasure to have you. And I remarked to you earlier, I think we're even Facebook friends. So there's
That's
for
great.
technology. This whole story with Fast and Furious, I know you've spoken out on this before, and it seems as though we keep developing, we keep uncovering more and more layers to the story. Obviously, Attorney General Eric Holder knew about this. The Department of Justice knew about this. It's been covered up, and it's like pulling teeth to get more information out of this. Then Cheryl Atkinson with CBS discovered just a few months ago that the ATF had been planning to use this situation as a way to argue for more stringent gun control laws. And yet Holder is still in his position. What's it going to take to get this man to resign?
Well, I don't think he is going to resign. I think he's going to have to be forced out. I tell you what, I worked for Ed Meese and Dick Thornburgh in the Reagan administration at the Justice Department. I can tell you, if there had been an operation like Fast and Furious, the Attorney General would have been in on it from the beginning for several reasons. Number one, it involved a foreign country, and you just don't do something like that without the Attorney General's approval. Second, it's obviously very sensitive, and we can see what happens when an operation goes bad, a tragedy, an American law enforcement officer killed. Now, Holder is either incompetent for not being involved from the beginning, or there's something else going on. And he has said, oh, well, you know, in the weekly reports there were these kind of observations about it. I used to write items for the weekly report for the Attorney General. I know what those weekly reports look like, and I know how Ed Meese and Dick Thornburgh, they knew everything that was going on in those little items. So if Eric Holder was reading his weekly reports and not paying attention, that's another example of incompetency.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that Mary has done, she covers all of the media aspect of this for the big sites, and you've reported, I mean, you've written reams about this. The CBS, Cheryl Atkinson seemed to be one of the only reporters that wrote about this. Mary, how long did it take for media to start finally covering this story and discussing some of the stuff Ambassador Bolton had mentioned?
Well, actually, when it was first discovered, after Cheryl Atkinson wrote about it, they did write about it. But once it was realized that Eric Holder and people above are involved, then they started slacking. It was mainly probably in April when it dropped off. But before that,
right,
they were doing a pretty decent job of it.
Right. Now this is a massive scandal for this administration, and yet it's been completely downplayed. I mean, if you think of Iran-Contra, you know, I think of even Watergate going back so far. We have over 300 dead Mexicans as a result of this. Border Patrol agent Brian Terry he's dead as a result of this. His family has filed suit against the ATF now for $25 million. This is it, and then of course, this was all while the story was blowing up. Obviously, we had the headlines of Hezbollah getting involved in Mexico, reaching out to drug cartels. This could have been a lot worse, and I'm kind of surprised at this point that it wasn't. But it seems that we've made no steps whatsoever to make us any more secure with regards to Mexico in this situation.
Well, and that touches on the point you raised at the outset, that there was a motivation for this sting operation, and it wasn't dealing with Mexican drug cartels bringing drugs into this country. It was intended to demonstrate that our current gun laws here are not strict enough, and thus justifying more regulation. And this is what the government of Mexico has been saying all along. It's not your drug problem that causes drug cartels to arise. It's your lax gun control laws. And gee, we in Mexico wouldn't have these cartels if we couldn't buy your guns. Well, look, they buy their guns all over the world. Sometimes they buy them from the police. That's how the drug cartels get them. Has nothing to do with American gun laws. But the ideological fixation of the Obama administration was to increase the gun control laws at the state and federal level, and they were going to use this Operation Fast and Furious to demonstrate that.
Right.
So even worse than a failed drug sting operation was that people's lives were put in jeopardy for ideological purposes. And the administration itself, although they won't admit it publicly, knows how dangerous this is, and they knew it when they announced the indictment of people for Iran's attempted it's conspiracy to assassinate the Saudi Arabian ambassador to the United States in the streets of Washington. Where do you think those people were going to come into the United States from? They were going to come through Mexico with the drug cartels and the drug smugglers, and it's the failure to secure the border. Whatever you think of illegal immigration, that's not even the issue. Hezbollah and other terrorist groups can work with the drug cartels, helped by the Venezuelans, to get into our country in ways they couldn't if they had to go through an airport screener in a European airport. So the administration is just culpable here in multiple respects.
Oh, and goodness. And I know Mary Chastain has been on Capitol Hill for the better part of the last 2 days, going and interviewing different lawmakers about this. What have been their responses to this? I know you were telling me that they were insistent that Eric Holder knew, despite what he's said in his testimony. What have you discovered?
I discovered that they fudge how many documents have actually been released. Representative Gosar showed me the documents, and a lot of them are repeats. So he said it's not really 6,000 pages, it's more 1,000 pages.
Right. Wow. Well, this is definitely, and we can spend so much time talking about Fast and Furious. I want to ask you very quickly, especially with everything happening in Syria. We've seen this president leading from behind on this entire Arab Spring, all of the incidents that have been occurring over the past year. Gosh, we've done so many shows just about Egypt. Your thoughts right now on the particular way that the president is handling just the latest round of violence in Syria? I see a new headline every day.
Well, he has no idea what to do. They put their faith in a Security Council resolution that might put pressure on the Assad regime, and seemed surprised after days and days of negotiation that watered the resolution down to complete insignificance, and the Russians and the Chinese vetoed it anyway, and they were shocked that it happened. Well, it was entirely predictable, and it just shows they don't know how to deal with what's going on. But I would say this: the difference between Syria and any other Arab country that had the Arab Spring is Iran's presence in support of the Assad regime, in support of the dictatorship. Iran has a lot at stake there. They're prepared to shed a lot of Syrian blood to keep Assad in power. Now, my view for close to 10 years has been we should have regime change in Syria and we should have regime change in Iran. So don't misunderstand me. I don't think this president has the backbone to carry through with getting involved in Syria and facing Iran. And I'm very much worried that since it's easier to get into than to finish, that if we slide into it, we're going to end up in a worse situation.
Right. Well, Ambassador John Bolton, thank you so much for joining us. Mary Chastain with Big Journalism, Big Government. She's Mary Chastain on Twitter. Thank you so much for all of your work, and I know we're going to be seeing more and more of your articles publishing today as well. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Take care.